I can start. I'm talking about racism, sexism, and unconscious bias. An easy thing to cover in 5 minutes, I have to say. From the Middle Passage to the era of strange fruit to the 13th Amendment, which, by the way, freed the slaves, but said that we actually could continue to have people work without pay if they were imprisoned. We now see that 1 in 3 black men have the chance to be imprisoned in the United States. And so we have a state of continued involuntary servitude for a large number of people in the United States. Can we have any doubt that the history of racism, discrimination, oppression, and terrorism against blacks in America contributes to the multitude of disparate health outcomes that continue to exist today? Disparate outcomes that affect African Americans, old and young. Kamara Jones and David Williams and others are now beginning to more openly talk about the impact of racism on the health and well-being of this country. I often wonder if the Dutch hunger winter of 1944 to 1945 affected the health outcomes of at least 2 generations of the Dutch, we must ask ourselves about the epigenetic effects of centuries of slavery and oppression on blacks in America. If we are to ever achieve health equity in America, we have to achieve equity in education, in housing, employment, income, and opportunity. And clearly, we still have a long way to go. We must ask ourselves, is a world without racism possible? I know what I hope the answer will be, but I'm not sure what the answer will be, particularly in the world that we're living in today. Sexism. See it, say it, stop it. If only it were that easy. In some parts of the world, equality between the sexes is enshrined in law, and yet women are still subjected to daily discrimination and exploitation. Sadly, the United States is one of those places, and the recent scandals at Fox News are only the smallest tip of the iceberg of sexism that exists throughout this country. As more and more women have entered primary care professions, do we think there's any relationship to the continued undervaluing of primary care in this country? Maybe. Access to reproductive health care services represents the most hotly contested arena for discussions about women's health in this country. And then there's the Billy Graham rule that I just recently learned about, that is followed by Vice President Mike Pence. This rule basically says that you never meet alone with a woman and that you never go to a social event that serves alcohol unless your wife is present. One wonders what the impact of this rule is on the women who work with a vice president. And what do women who are carving their own paths in their lives look like? Got bias? Perhaps the feelings engendered by the pictures you just saw give us some insights into the answer to that question. So unconscious bias tells us that we have shortcuts that impact our actions and they impact our thinking. And actions shaped by unconscious bias can and have resulted in poorer health and healthcare outcomes for African Americans, Native Americans, and Hispanics in the United States today. So hopefully, later this afternoon, we'll have an opportunity to have a conversation about what we can do about all of this. Thank you.